Hi, friends, and welcome to another episode of Flip Chick Chats. Today, I'm really excited to introduce you to a good friend of mine and a colleague. We've been working together several years. This is Mark Skowron from Festival Properties. He is a top wholesaler in the Chicagoland market, and he's going to share with us some really juicy bits of information today. Welcome, Mark.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Margaret. Thank you for the very nice introduction.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So I would love if you could share with our friends here just how you got started into wholesaling and, in the Chicago market specifically, why you chose to get into the wholesaling here.
Sure. Kind of got into real estate about 4 years ago now. The reason why I got into it, probably the same reason everyone else gets into real estate, building wealth, being free, independence, not having to answer to a boss, other than yourself. So, the dream that everyone has. I had the same dream. So, started on the bottom, wholesaling, making every mistake you can possibly make, overpaying for properties, losing deposits, getting properties in the ghetto and trying to sell it to anyone and everyone. So, it's a learning curve. So, a lot goes into it. But, the major reason, just probably what people are listening to right now, is financial freedom, independence, getting away from your boss, that whole package, basically. Yeah. It's real. It exists.
We are a testament to that, aren't we?
Yes, absolutely.
It's interesting because you and I do very different sides of real estate investing, although we work together very closely. So we're sort of we're two peas in a pod in a lot of ways, but we have very different roles in it. I know you also do some flipping like what I do. So tell me a little bit, when you got started with wholesaling, can you give like a 3-minute overview of, because some people here on the call, right, they might not even know what wholesaling means. Can you just explain that at a high level?
Yeah, certainly. Well, I don't know if I could do it at a high level, but...
or you can dig in deep, whatever you
yeah, so, I mean, very simply, for you guys turning in, wholesaling at its core is finding a motivated seller, and then getting that property under contract under a no contingency cash deal, 14-day, 30-day close, whatever you can negotiate with the seller. So you kind of replace what the realtor does. The seller knows that they're giving up a little bit of equity for peace of mind and closing on the date of their choice. Instead of listing with a realtor, waiting 6 months, doing the repairs, that kind of thing. So your whole goal as a wholesaler is to find the properties that are uglier the better, vacant, probate, divorced, any kind of situational stress where the home seller has to, hey, Mark, I got to close by 2 weeks, by Friday. Those are the ones you want to deal with. The sellers you don't really want to deal with are the ones that say, hey, my house is worth $250, I want $280 in cash.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, next. So, in essence, it's getting that property under contract with that seller and then matching it up. You're a principal in the transaction. We're not realtors, so you're representing yourself. And then you find a cash buyer, which is, a rehabber, such as yourself, a landlord, such as yourself, or someone that's used, either cash or hard money or private money. So you've got, in essence, I don't want to call it a motivated buyer, but you are motivated because you want to do more deals, right?
That's true. We want to keep the funnel full.
Yeah, you keep your contractors working, your funnel full. Yeah. So in essence, it's matching up the hungry buyer and the hungry seller, and then you're kind of in the middle, and you just take a quick cut. So like for someone listening in, if you're just getting into real estate, probably the best way to get into it, because you'll learn about the business from A to Z. You'll make a lot of mistakes, but they're not as costly when you're wholesaling than when you're rehabbing. So.
I know one of the big benefits of getting started as a wholesaler is you put a lot of time into it. I know you put a ton of time to find your deals and to marry the two motivated parties, but you don't really need money to get started with wholesaling.
Correct. And as far as that, it's what you can negotiate, Margaret. So that's where your negotiation, and it'll get better as you go along. The best way, obviously, is to input zero money into the deal, but that's something you got to work out with the seller. Say, hey, listen, by the time I give you this 1,000 earnest, 500 earnest. If you don't have that amount, then say, Mr. Seller, we're going to close this quicker than I can even deliver that anyway. But you better close it, then you better find a buyer. So it's all in how you negotiate it with the seller. You can do these. We do them all day. I know you do too, without putting any earnest down or $10 or $100, but legitimately closing it so quick that it's a non-issue.
So tell us about your very first wholesale deal. So take yourself back to all those years ago, and what was the emotion about it? What was the whole process of hey, I've heard that real estate investing is this fabulous thing to do, and I'm going to try my hand at it. So if you can put yourself back into the mindset of a brand new investor, share with us that experience.
Nice. So that was just yesterday. I just did my first deal. And I'm already doing this show now. Isn't it amazing? God.
Is before it
was ruined a day in this business.
Before you were married, and you had a full big thick head of hair, and
right. No stress. It's all easy.
No stress.
Everything's simple.
Sitting on the beach.
No, so first deal, actually, I got it from a sign. I put up, so when I first started, this is a good note. So if you want small results, you take small action. If you want massive results, you take massive action. So I actually bought 1,000 bandit signs, and I literally, this is when I was starting out. So I wrote them all up, and I littered the cities around me with them. Say again?
Some people might not know what a bandit sign is. So if you guys see on the side of the road signs that say, "We buy ugly houses," or "I pay cash for your house," so that's probably Mark if you're driving around in the Chicagoland area.
Exactly, and they work really well. They do. They really do. They piss off the code inspectors in the cities, but they work. They're very good for both buyers and for sellers. So, so what I did is I had 1,000 of those. I put up, "We'll buy your house, cash," and then I put the number. And I literally just put, within a weekend, I think I put all 1,000 of them up. So, phone was ringing off the hook. I didn't know what to do or what to say. I kind of just got into it without a coach or with a mentor. I kind of just took the plunge. So, I spent a lot of time, more than I should, talking to unqualified, unmotivated sellers. And so that's the one tip there too, is if you always go for motivation. If you're being a wholesaler, you only want to work with a motivated seller. If you notice that they're non-motivated, be nice, but move on. Don't spend too much time.
What are some pointers for determining if they're motivated? I mean, you talked a little bit about it, that quick close.
So two easy questions, and they're pretty to the point, is you can just say, "Hey, what's your reason for selling?" And if they say, "Hey, we're upgrading," it's not really motivated. Or we're looking for a bigger house, or we want to move to be closer to family. That's not really that. It's not really motivation. Right. Motivation is something like, "Hey, I'm losing my house next Friday. Can you help me?" Bingo, that's motivation. Or we're getting divorced, on Thursday, so we need to sell by Wednesday. That kind of thing.
Yeah. So you put up your 1,000 bandit signs, and you got a ton of calls, and that led to your first deal.
So yeah, let's take this one back. So probably spent, out of those 1,000, probably a couple hundred calls came in. So a lot of them unqualified. I didn't know what I was doing, so I spent too much time talking to them. The one finally came through. She was motivated. And this is a key, too, for anyone starting out, is even if you suck, which I did, you cannot mess up a motivated seller. Remember that. If they're truly motivated, you can make every error and still consummate the deal. So
you come in as their savior a lot of times.
Yeah, exactly.
You're their last bet, and best case scenario that they actually have a chance to get out of this deal.
Exactly right. Yeah. So I'm trying to remember. Talked to her. She was very motivated. Widowed, behind on taxes, had to sell. Was very anxious. Was just not wanting to be in her house anymore. Had a place with her daughter. Say again.
What area was this?
Des Plaines. It was Des Plaines. Which, if you're in Chicago and you're listening, don't even try to put them up in Des Plaines, because I had to show up in court.
Oh no!
Because somehow, at the time I was using a traceable number from like an old radio show. Somehow it was traceable. So there's another key: is always use a Google Voice or an untraceable number.
Yeah.
Because it really ruins their day. If you notice that, like, if a code inspector calls you, like, it really ruins their day. Like that drives them mad. So don't do that.
Yeah,
so anyway,
in real estate should be operating with some Google Voice. Just the whole well, you want to avoid the code inspectors coming down, and oh gosh, we've had some nasty run-ins with some code inspectors over some bandit signs. But having those Google voice numbers, really in real estate, we want to have some anonymity anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a huge tip for anybody getting into real estate.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, talk to her, Carol. Talked to Carol, got the facts. I met with her, and this is an important note for everyone listening too. If you're just starting out, I didn't know what I was doing, what I was saying. I think I downloaded like a contract from like Google or something, you know. But when I walked in there, even though I was terrified, you know, I didn't want to say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, but I just acted as if it's like doubtful. I was so, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to say. But I kind of just combated that, and the exterior was, Carol, I'm here to help you, and we will put this together. So she saw that, you know, got a good deal on it. I think I made like $5,000 on that one. But it was pretty simple. The process was, got under contract with her. She wanted to close, I think, 3 weeks, you know, whatever the date was. But the good part is I actually helped her. She's widowed. I helped her like move her stuff, coordinate like a donation company to come and pick up some of her goods. An estate sale, I kind of helped her coordinate that too. A dump truck to get rid of all her stuff.
Let's talk for a second about the karma associated to this. So a lot of times sometimes there's a negative association to people that are real estate investors that, you know, maybe they're there not with the best intentions. But I think with wholesalers especially, you do kind of come in as the angel who's going to save the day, and especially somebody like you, because I know you have such a good heart that you really are not there to steal a property out from under somebody, that you're there coming from a good heart space to help them and to really make a difference for them too. So I think that's a beautiful thing that a lot of people might not realize and appreciate about that side of the wholesaling business.
Great point. It's still a human being business, so you still have to have a heart to serve. You know, when they're motivated, they're vulnerable. So sometimes they'll accept anything. So the challenge there is you still want to make it a win-win-win without crushing them. You know, it's still being respectful but still giving them a fair amount for their house so they can move on, you know, to buy another house or to, you know, whatever the reason for selling is. So yeah, you got to be a human being about it. That's half the business too, you know. And it'll always, whether you're religious or spiritual or not, that part will always come back for good or for worse. You know, it depends on what you do. So.
That's true. So you and I, we've worked together. We've done a bunch of deals together, and for me, that's a huge part of why I know I trust you. I love working with you. And you've probably encountered a lot of people in the Chicagoland market or in other markets that don't really come from that heart space of caring about everybody, wanting the best for everybody. They come from more of a selfish, I'm looking out for myself. So do you have any experiences working with other wholesalers, or do you have any stories to share for people who maybe on our side of the business, people who are flipping and rehabbing, working with a wholesaler in the context of a relationship like you and I have, where you bring the deals to me? What are some words of wisdom for some of our guests here that are looking to work with a wholesaler? What should they watch out for to make sure they find somebody like you and not somebody who's going to be difficult?
Yeah, I mean, you know, in that regard, maybe get references or referrals that, you know, a wholesaler that's closed deals with someone that you know. You know, always short-term sacrifice for long-term gain. You always want the relationship, but it depends on. You really gotta like think long-term. It's not one deal where you're gonna try to. All right, I'm gonna try to get as much as I can out of this deal. I don't care about the seller. I don't care about the buyer. You'll still do deals that way, but no one is gonna pay attention to you or trust you or you know, relational capital in that regard. I get, you know, 5 calls every day because, you know, everyone that I work with, I make sure that it's a good transaction, that everyone is a win-win-win. So I'll get 5 calls every day now. Hey, Mark, I got this property. Can you help me co-wholesale it? Because they know that I'm going to do the best for everyone involved. So if you have that long-term mentality, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. But, you know, if not, then you're going to have trouble. You're going to have trouble because you're going to have to scrounge so much just for the individual deals.
It's funny. I think back to the first deal that we did together, and I literally found you on Craigslist. So I was looking for deals, and you know, bashing my head against the wall because I don't want to spend my days on Craigslist, and I love and appreciate that you spend your days on Craigslist. I kept seeing your name tied to these different properties, but there was in the back of my head, because I didn't have a relationship with you yet, and I hadn't met you yet, and I was like, I don't know, it's kind of shady. So this guy's got a house, but he doesn't. So I didn't understand the whole process. So what should a new person working with a wholesaler on the buying side, or I mean for that matter on the selling side, because maybe somebody's listening to this that has a house that they're trying to get rid of.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Or I mean, contracts, clean title. What are the things that you?
So they're like, if you're just starting out with a new relationship with a wholesaler that wasn't referred to you, like we did, but basically it was like a cold call or a cold Craigslist. Like for you, so for you is having your attorney make sure that title's clean, everything is in a row, contract was there, assignment was there, no title issues, no back taxes, that kind of thing. That the owner is the legit owner of the property, because that can happen where there's friction there, especially in Chicago.
Sure.
So I think covering your bases, having your attorney get involved, checking all that stuff probably is the best way to go. Referrals, references is always, if you know another buyer, hey, have you closed a deal with this guy? And they'll say yes or no. If yes, hey, how'd it go? Is everything good? Everything, it's real estate, so there's always gonna be loose ends and challenges. But hey, did he say what he was gonna, with what he said and what he did, was it in alignment? So those probably are the two most important: the referrals and get your attorney to check everything, or title company, depends on where you are.
So that's an interesting idea to think about. That Chicago is a huge market, but the real players in the wholesaling side of things, it's a pretty tight-knit community of people. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's pretty easy to know who's legit in the business, who's going to be easy to work with, who you're going to enjoy working with, who you can trust working with in the business. And I've even just the few years that you and I have been working together, I've seen guys come and go and come and go.
Falling off. Yeah. I used to work at Jewel in high school, and I would always say the turnover, for the baggers was just insane. But like in wholesaling and in real estate, I think it's even more. I see new people come and go all the time, just because they just don't have that bullheaded approach. You got to be a bulldog. So.
And we talked about the idea that so many people, speaking of Jewel, this is a good analogy, they get in line and then they get out of line. Then they get in line, they get out of line. And I think in real estate, you got to get in line and you got to stay in line.
Stay in line, yeah. The whole thing is avoid the shiny object syndrome, right? Oh, I got to go here. Oh, I got to go here. Which we're all guilty of that sometimes. But you got to stay in your path and just bulldoze until you get going.
Do you think that's the biggest struggle for new people starting in wholesaling, is they don't see it through to being profitable, that maybe their expectations are too high? They think they heard about a guy who made $20,000 on their first deal, so they think every deal is $20,000, or what do you think some of the reasons why people aren't successful?
Yeah. There's probably a couple. That's probably number one, though. It's always, there's I forget who said it, but it was an old quote that 80% of anything is in the head. Mm-hmm. And so that part's true. I mean, you do have to know people, whether it's a coach or a mentor or someone that kind of help you, guide you throughout. I guess we're one of the rare that actually did it without initially. Just getting busy and bulldozing. Yeah, right. Just making every mistake. But that's what it takes. That's the number one quality. There's nothing even close to that. Where no matter what's in your way, you're just going to find a way to make it happen. But then there's probably a lot of information online where you can get started anyway, whether you're wholesaling or rehabbing, to kind of at least get a base. You still probably want someone in your local market to kind of, hold your hand a little bit. So I would say it's probably those, not enough knowledge, not enough relational capital. But all of that boils down to, listen, when I started out, I went to I wanted to find cash buyers. Mm-hmm. So I just went to the courthouse literally every day, from DuPage, Cook, and what's the other one? Kane County. So I literally just went to the courthouse. I didn't know anything, but I just approached every single buyer there, because I know, hey, they got to close within a day. They're legit, right? They're not like someone off Craigslist where, yeah, I got cash, So, but I literally approached every single one and said, hey, my name is Mark. I got a lot of inventory for you, even though I had like nothing going on there. But I created these relationships with them, right? but that's what it takes. Not, I don't think only 1% of people are actually going to do that. Most people are going to be, well, I'm too fearful. I'm not going to try that because it's way out of my comfort zone. And I felt that too. But I think the whole key is like just make a conscious effort to listen to your higher self. I know we're going to get deep, right? But that's the whole goal. Make that conscious effort to listen to your higher self, not your lower self, which is, no, I can't do that. I don't want to do that. I don't know anyone. That kind of thing. So I think that's the number one. If you don't have that quality, don't worry about the other stuff. Worry about that first, because everything else will fall into place. Knowing the right people, knowing the right knowledge, specialized knowledge. You can figure that out, but it's got to be up here first. You got to decide that you can commit.
The psychology, if you want to call it that, it's really, really fascinating in this business. And I know when I teach my students, that's number one. If you don't come into this business with an abundant mindset and get over yourself very, very early on, I mean, that's a good example of you better get over yourself and do things like go to the court steps and put yourself out there. I really think that makes the biggest difference of anything is the mindset that you have going into it. Because think about the logistics of what we do, either on your side or on my side. It's not that complicated.
Yeah.
It's the mindset. It's putting
Very
yourself
simple.
out there. It's having the motivation to say, you know what, I deserve this. My family deserves this. I deserve to have this lifestyle that right now is a pipe dream when you're starting out, when you're sticking bandit signs and hanging out on the courthouse steps. But, it's worth it in the end. And if only we could teach that as easy as we can teach that step 1, step 2, step 3. That, like you said, you go out and you stick some bandit signs in. You go to the courthouse and you introduce yourself to a bunch of people. This isn't brain surgery. This isn't rocket science.
You just got to get over yourself. To go along with it, I think Margaret, so the quality is, and that's what that should be like in every intro to real estate, is under legal, moral, ethical guidelines. You want to follow that, but outside of those guidelines, I mean, I know you. I'll do anything it takes. Whether it's to talk to the seller or to get to the buyer, whatever it takes. So, literally, if it means calling a seller, every day for a year, stopping by randomly at their house, knocking on, whatever, just legal, moral, ethical. But outside of those boundaries, anything it takes. That's the number one mentality. So if you get anything from this call, that's the one. Just be a bulldog.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What else can we share with people? I know we could have done this over 7 days instead of over hopefully less than an hour by the time we're done. What are some other details that you'd love to share with people? I agree with you 100%. That mindset and that determination, that's most important. And studying that, people think they've got to go out and learn how to do real estate. And I say this all the time. It's not about flipping houses. That's the easy part. It's about getting in the mindset of abundance and prosperity. And what can you do? I think about with flipping the houses. What are we doing? We're doing something very positive for the neighborhood, for the city, for the new homeowner. We're creating a home for that person. Even on a financial level, we're helping out the bank by getting rid of their property, or helping you out as a wholesaler who's helping the seller out. I mean, there's
everyone wins. Everyone wins.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
I mean, the best tips, honestly, I would say, is just get started. If you're kind of like looking from the outside in, just get into it. Don't fear making mistakes, because you're going to. We still do, especially you, all the time.
I've never made a mistake.
We all do, though. We all do. But when you're starting out, it's going to be very uncomfortable, and you're going to make a lot of mistakes. But you just gotta battle through. You learn. You make this mistake. Okay, now I know not to do that. I'll go this way. And then you make a little mini mistake. Okay, but now I know to add a 7 or a 10-day inspection now. So the whole key is just get going. Get the basics. Market to motivated sellers, and then market to cash buyers. If you're going to focus on one, if I would recommend anyone, it's cash buyers for sure. Yeah. So I spent years just cultivating relationships with buyers, with cash buyers, to the point where now, a lot of other wholesalers, investors, sellers will call me and say, hey, can you help me out? I got this property. I need to dump it. And, and I got someone, I got a lot of buyers kind of in all these different north, south, east, and west. So if you're starting out, I would focus on the buyers, create relationships with true buyers, and then just start doing one deal at a time. Get your first one underneath the belt. Once you start closing deals, people kind of, it's a small community, so we all hear, hey, he's closing deals, so then, I got trouble selling this property. Let me call Mark. Oh yeah, or call Mark because we just closed a deal. So the whole thing is get to your first deal, get the right knowledge, but just get busy. Just send it. I would say if you're starting out tomorrow, send 25, or at least minimum, send 25 contracts to sellers. With a 10-day inspection, cash as is, and then just see what feedback comes back. See if you get any responses back. I would send 100, but whatever that is.
So when you say just send out these contracts to sellers that you found where?
So what I would do, if you're just starting out, bandit signs work really well, especially if you want calls coming in like right now. So like literally, if we stopped recording and I ran and put a bandit sign, I came back, we'd probably get a call from the seller. So I would start there, just because then you learn like the foundation of the business too. And then you can do like direct mail and postcards. I don't know if we have time to get into all the different like subcategories, but you want to send them to where you think motivated sellers would exist. So like a divorce list, a probate list, an inherited list, which is basically the mother or father dies, they inherit the property to their children. Children don't want it. Those are great too because it's not their equity, so they're usually willing to sell for less than what it's worth because, hey, this is a problem. We got to pay taxes on this. Mom and dad left us. We just want to get rid of it. Yeah. What else? Divorce, tax sales, tax lates, absentee owners, which is like owners of properties that don't live in that property. So they're either landlords, burnt-out landlords, or like they live out of state. So you want to market to motivated sellers. That's all offline. You can do online. You can do Google AdWords, create websites, squeeze pages. I mean, that could be another course in itself. But and here's another thing. What I did too when I started out was get business cards that we'll buy your house right now for cash. Anywhere you go, whether it's the coffee shop, grocery store, anywhere, hand them out to anyone. You're getting your cup of coffee. Oh, hey, by the way, if you know anyone that wants to sell their house, let me know. So literally just hand them out to everyone that you see. Library, anywhere.
I remember there was a time, it's a good reminder for me because I used to do this, that every time I would go, for example, to the grocery store, I would park in the far back, and then I would stick a card in every windshield that I would walk. Sure.
So you probably got deals from those too.
Yeah, I'm sure. But again, that's doing what most people are not willing to do. That is the biggest difference between people who are successful and people who aren't successful, is those of us who end up becoming successful, it wasn't by chance, it wasn't by mistake, it was because we do things that most people are not willing to do. I've gotten kicked out of the parking lot before, actually.
Oh, you got But that's what it takes. That's what it takes. There was such a good quote. It was along those same lines, which I love it, was successful people will do the things that unsuccessful people or just don't have the courage, or I forgot what it was, or desperation. They don't have the courage or desperation, even though they might be way smarter, way more intelligent, but they just won't follow through with it. So that's what it takes.
Yeah. That's a good point. And
I bet you probably got kicked out of that parking lot and then just like went across the street to another parking lot and said, all right, I'll finish these up here.
Actually, no, what we did, we came back later in the night because we knew it would be a new crew.
See?
The things we do to make a buck.
Whatever it takes. Hold on, what else? So motivated sellers. Yeah, so there's online, offline. You could talk to realtors, pocket listings, friends, acquaintances. Hey, anyone that wants to sell their house and is rather motivated? Church groups, attorneys. Here's another good tip: is this is, I guess, once you start getting it going, and let's say you closed 5 or 10 deals before, so you save the attorney, like the seller attorney info, or the buyer attorney info, and then send them like an email once, twice a month. Say, hey, I closed this deal. I know you have, I know you deal with other sellers or with other buyers. If you run into any other properties where the seller really wants to sell, let me know. Yeah. Or or for the buyer, hey, if you run in any, because attorneys are out running around doing 5-6 closings a day too. So leverage them too. Say, hey, if you got deals, send them my way. I'll take care of you. Whatever that is.
Yeah, and
that's worked really well.
with the attorneys, you could talk specifically to bankruptcy attorneys or divorce attorneys, obviously real estate attorneys. That's it's a good place to go to get both the buyers and the sellers. That's a great idea.
Absolutely. What else? What else? If you know a CPA, this is a really good. We should start charging people for this. Just kidding. No, this is really good. So think about who the most trusted advisors are in the world. It's usually a doctor, CPA, those kind of people. So find a CPA that you know, or whether it's a family friend or whether it's an investor, and create a relationship with him. And then you can actually sell deals to the CPA's clients, because if he has business clients, then he likely has real estate investors or people that are looking to park their money somewhere. Yeah. So the CPA will kind of act as he'll sell the properties for you in essence. You can give him a cut, co-wholesale, or whatever your arrangement is. But what a great way that they know, they like, they trust, especially trust whatever he has to say. So what a great way to leverage his network.
Yeah, it's interesting to me how many people come into my class, or I've talked to them on the street, whatever the scenario is, and they say, I would love to get started with real estate investing, but I don't have the money. And maybe wholesaling is overwhelming to them. That freaks them out. But there's a great scenario where they work with somebody like you, and they also work with somebody who has the capital. So for example, doctors, lawyers, everybody's got a friend who's got money, but they don't have the skill set or the know-how to get into something like flipping houses or wholesaling houses. And so that's another great scenario when you talk about professionals or people that would love to get into the business, but the reality is they're working a 9-to-5 job, and they're creating the money through active income by showing up to a job every day, which I know you and I don't no concept of that anymore. But I mean, that's a great scenario where, for me, when you talk about the bandit signs, I'm just not going to do that. I love that you do, and I'm happy to pay you for your part of it, your assignment fee. I know I'm not allowed to call it commission. And there's a lot of people like that if we, as investors that are doing rehabs and flipping, we partner with you or a wholesaler like you in whatever market it is, and then we also, on the flip side, partner with somebody who would have the capital. And then, that's a great arrangement too, that the flipper on the middle of it could be not necessarily the one with the money. We're not the ones who have to go find the properties. We just have to marry somebody like you to the person who's got the money and work so it's like another layer of that middle person.
Yeah. And the whole thing is starting out, you got to get creative, right?
Right.
Let's say, hopefully you have either one. You either got to have time or money, hopefully both. But let's say if you only have one to choose, if you have time, then you're going to have to write your own yellow letters or put up your own signs. Or you can have your mom or friend or anyone help you with it, and then say, hey, if we close a deal, I'll give you a percentage of it, but right now I can't pay you. Mm-hmm. If you really completely have zero, or limited budget. So you just got to be creative in how you structure things, or get a joint venture with someone that'll put up all your signs and say, hey, I can't pay you anything, but once as soon as we close the deal, I'll give you $500, $400, $250, whatever that is. So, maybe if you're just starting out, it'll make sense to at least do it once, whether it's writing out the letter, putting up the sign, just so you can understand it, so you can tell the next person how to do it, in a systemic way. But you got to be creative. You really. That's the good. Actually, it was kind of the fun part of the business, right? Because it's uncertain and you're not making any money, but it required you to be in the moment and think, how can I make this happen?
Yeah.
So.
And there really are hundreds, if not thousands, of ways to make money in real estate. And I love that you bring up the time and money thing, because there's almost always an inverse between those two. The people who have a ton of time on their hands don't have any money. The people who have a ton of money on their hands don't have any time. And so with both of us, what we do, for both of us now, I think we've kind of, once you're a seasoned real estate investor, that's the draw to it, is that you get to have both time and money if you're working it right. If you're smart about it, your idea of being creative with it, that's huge. There's a million ways to do all the different, I was going to say skin a cat, but that sounds so nasty, but I said it anyway. So.
But it's priceless. I mean, we do it because we're in the business, but we love what we do, so it's fun. But yeah, we got it to the point too where we outsource, minimize, reduce, that kind of thing. But we still love what we do. So you can have both time and money.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So wonderful. Well, thank you so, so much for spending some time with us. I know that this information, we talk about how it took us 5, 10, 15 years to learn what we learned and made mistakes on our own. So the goal of the Flip Chick Chats is that people can, in a very short period of time, learn from our mistakes and hopefully progress a lot faster. Again, they've got to have that level of confidence. They've got to have the abundant mindset. They've got to be willing to put themselves out there. They've got to be creative with things. And so thank you, Mark, so much for spending some time with us.
Yes, thank you for having me. And let me be the first to commend you, too, that the real estate investors is an industry of sharks and men and A-type male entrepreneurs. So A-type female entrepreneur. Good for you that you're swimming here with the fishes and you're dominating. So honestly, it takes a lot. It takes a lot because there's really not that many. I mean, there is, but I would say 9 out of every 10 rehabbers, investors is a guy. So
it's true. It's true.
So kudos to you and keep rocking.
I love what I do, and I love inspiring both men and women, but I have to say I'm a little partial to when I see a woman succeed in the real estate business. So thank you for your acknowledgement for that. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, have a wonderful rest of the day, and we will talk soon. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Flip Chick Chat.